All right, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the Indy road course here for the Cup Series. When we look back at the races this year, and first and foremost, let's not waste time looking back at last year's race. There's, in my view, first off, looking at track data is pretty useless. I like to look at things based on what they're doing this year, not previous years, in a previous car with a different transmission, with a different aero package. Don't want to even really bother with that stuff, okay? Outside of that, we had the fact that Briscoe got ran in the grass late in the race, okay? He was basically not disqualified, but passing outside of the track limits took him out of contention. Then we had not one, but multiple incidents down the back straightaway, not even including the fact that Indy and NASCAR wanted to use curbing made of steel instead of just regular curbing. Even once that was taken out, these drivers were still wrecking. You know, we had splitters being torn off. We had people flying into the grass. We had, hey, if somebody takes the hit like that Logano hit last year, they might be out with a concussion as well. Shout out to Kurt Busch. Hardly knew you. My man, my sacrificial lamb. I doubt anybody's going to learn, man. It's like Tillicum from SeaWorld, man. We're just going to keep on losing people. No reason to change anything. Let's just keep drivers in these cars and let them get injured as much as they talk about how vicious these hits are, how hard these hits are, how uncomfortable they are in the car. Let's not even really discuss the amount of G-forces that poor little Kurt Busch took in the back of his head when he flew into the wall backwards, because that is a weak point in the car, hitting directly on the rear end. Outside of the fact that this car doesn't give it all, I can't lose myself in a rant, but you know the drill. Anyway, firstly, Kurt Busch not racing this weekend. Ty Gibbs is replacing Kurt Busch for the 45 car. He's already added to the player pool on DraftKings at $7,000. High likelihood he can at least score in the 30s. I would find it hard to believe that he's not going to hit at least 4.8 value. Anyway, let's get in and look at the races earlier from this year. When we look at the race at Austin, Texas, we're going to see some similarities in these races, okay? I understand Austin, Texas got pretty cray-cray, pretty loony, pretty nuts late in the race with multiple yellows. However, Stage 1 went green. Stage 2 went green. And then we had debris. We had Eric Jones stopping the back straight. We had some people get wrecked, and some people got wrecked at the very last corner on the restart. We had multiple restarts in this race. However, the first two stages went green. When we look back at Sonoma and we see how this race went, we had fluid on the track early in the race in Stage 1, but it went green in Stage 1 outside of the fluid on the track. Stage 2 went green. We had debris with about 30 laps left in the Sonoma race, but it went green from there. We had no wrecks, okay? When we're looking at the race at Road America, no yellows in Stage 1, no yellows in Stage 2, no yellows in Stage 3. For all you idiots out there being like, I want to see more road courses. I want to see NASCAR go to a street course. I want to see NASCAR turn left and right. I don't like these intermediates. They're boring. Texas sucks. There's no passing at Texas. These races are horrible to watch. These are hard to watch, people. I don't know why we have so many road courses. 2 was perfect. Watkins Glen is perfect. Okay, you want a slow track? Go to Sonoma. We don't need anything else. Okay, let's bring back some races at intermediates. Okay, let's not waste our time like that. The road course or the street course at Chicago gonna be fun for about the first 20 seconds of the race. And then once you realize nobody can pass, it just makes you want to kill yourself. Like, these races are horrible. And so when we're looking at optimal lines and we're looking at how these races are playing out, it is being played out based on who pits before the stages, who stays out, and the fact that you can't pass in these road courses. You can't pass. We've seen it this year. So when we look back for an example, let's take a gander back to Toyota Safe Mart 350. With good old Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is the fastest car on track. There is nobody close to the speed that Kyle Larson has. He has it in the bag. Nobody is even competing with Kyle Larson. However, Cliff Daniels decides to keep Kyle Larson out to get a stage win. I have no idea why. I am still to this day baffled at the fact that Cliff Daniels threw away the race. Maybe he was paid by NASCAR. Maybe the whole thing was to rig a race for Suarez to win. I don't know. You didn't hear that from me. But Kyle Larson has the fastest car. They stay out. They win the stage. They get buried in traffic and they're not able to move up. Everybody who pitted before that stage and before both stages were the guys competing for the win, okay? Look, when you look at average running position, specifically at Sonoma and at Road America, you're going to see guys that started in the top 10, that ran in the top 10, that chose to pit before the end of the stages, finish around the top 10. It's as simple as that. Stages have ruined road course racing, where if you go for a stage win or stage points, you're pissing away your finishing potential in these races. So that is the biggest hindrance that we're seeing in terms of fantasy stuff this year. While I'm on the same little discussion here, let's go ahead and take a quick gander at the optimal lineups. Now, these are optimal lines. These are not necessarily the lineups that were played that won the $15 contest, or the cases. This is just mathematically what the optimal lineups were. And so what do we notice when we look at Road America? What do we notice when we look at Sonoma? Well, Road America, look at the amount of salary used. Look at the amount of salary left over. Look at the starting positions and the finishing positions of everybody here. We're seeing that, and yet again, I'm kind of talking about this more and more to indicate how to work with a player pool or work with projections, rather. Only 15 drivers above 30 points, okay? Everybody else is really not in contention, not even close, not even worth playing. And when we look at the guys with baked-in place differential plays, that seems like shock plays, that seem like people that DFS players are going to use in lineups, it's due to the fact that you're not going to have a lot of passing here at road courses, and the people who have baked-in place differential, the chalk plays, are chalk for a reason, because they have a high likelihood of passing people and working through. Now, granted, there's situations here to where we didn't expect, and this is Road America, and we didn't expect, Harvick to go from 28th to 10th, but he's a guy who starts 28th, who you could at least project for a top 16 finish. He gets a little bit more than that, finishes 10th and everything. When we look at Sonoma, when we look at Road America again, 1, 2, 3 guys in the top 10. When we look at Sonoma, 2 guys in the top 10, and everybody else with baked-in place differential. Everybody else is people that you were considering playing due to the fact that they had place differential. Pearce has even highlighted. I mean, look at this outside of Cindric and Buescher. Look at the amount of place differential that these guys had. It's the most place differential out of anyone. And these are not like shocking finishes. Like, yet again, Harvick starts 23rd. You project him for 16, for 10th, somewhere around there. He finishes 4th. That's not out of the realm of possibility. Same thing with these drivers here. These are all people who were chalk plays that you expected to have ownership to, because they had baked in place differential. Same thing here. When you look back at the amount of people scoring at least 30 points, you have just a ton of people who aren't even in contention. And it's not even like gigantic losses. Like, sure, Reddick, Hamlin, Busch runs into issue, and these are actually when they pit late at Sonoma hoping for a yellow to get different. Oops. But even people like AJ, loses 3 positions. Like, and these are in terms of projections. Like, he starts 21st, give him 17, somewhere around there. You're still not going to get him around 30th. We're going to have a very, very condensed player pool. And when you look at the top 10 finishers here, and base top 10 finishers and then where they started, even when you take Cindric, Harvick, Keselowski, and Byron out, you still have Blaney starting, what would that be, 13th, 14th? You have McDowell starting 9th. You have Chastain. McDowell starting 4th, Chastain starting 7th. We can see where these guys are, and the reason I'm looking at Sonoma and Road America so much is due to the fact that I think Indy performs the same way. Coda got crazy at the end of the race because people started wrecking out. We can see that here at Coda. As I said, we had first 2 stages pretty much went green. At the end of in stage 3, we had multiple restarts, and this is when people start moving out. Like, you have several guys get spun out at the very end of the race. I know Logano's one of them. We can even look back here. Kyle Busch spun in turn 7 on the last lap, overtime restart. We can even look at NASCAR's notes here, and you can even see who spins out and who takes out who. And anyway, the fact of the matter remains is that we're still seeing salary left over. We're still seeing you don't have to use anywhere. Like, it's not necessarily a plate race to where you're stacking from the back, but you're playing the guys who have a high likelihood of confirming the place differential that you think they can get to. Like when we see guys starting in the 20s that are clearly not 20th place drivers, that clearly just had a bad time in queue, that clearly just, missed a corner, lost 4/10 in qualifying, wasn't able to get back up there to do another lap. That's why I hate to use place differential as just the end-all be-all, to where it's like, we need to wait till qualifying, but in terms of road courses, it's a situation where we do need that. And yet again, people are going to be like, why don't you make a post-qualifying video? Guys, I'm live every weekend for every race, okay? I don't need a post-qualifying video when I'm live for an hour, just chilling and talking with you guys. The reason I'm saying this and making these types of videos before qualifying is to give you an idea of what to look for. Maybe you don't have access to these sheets. Maybe you don't have access to our Patreon, which maybe you should highly consider joining in August. I mean, I understand you might not have it for this weekend, but you can join in August and still see the stuff. You can join August and save yourself a lot of time and effort. This isn't necessarily, while yes, Pearce and I do have projections in there, I think it's much more than that. It's a huge database that you can look at and look into and find everything that you need at certain points. If you're curious about certain thing, when you're building lines and looking people up, hey, we could very easily just search that up between all the folders we have. And so when we're looking at this weekend's race, what are we looking for in terms of lap leaders? Outside of the place differential plays that come through, what are we looking for in terms of lap leaders? We're looking for people, and clearly the people who qualify up front are going to have speed. Okay, we've seen that be a given, to where if you're fast in practice, you're most likely going to advance into the final round of qualifying. If you happen to get bumped out, the people who are starting 11th to 16th typically have good cars that would be top 10 cars if they were just in a different group, or if the qualifying just happens to go different. We're also going to see a situation to where, like I said, people get bumped or move down the starting grid just due to how somebody does not a heater lap, but to finish their round of qualifying, they bump people down, or somebody just completely misses the corners. That's how we get these place differential plays that you kind of have to go to. When we're looking at lap leaders, and what I want to do when I'm building lines this week, and I was not aggressive enough at this at Road America. I was not aggressive at this at Sonoma. These are issues that I'm having. I'm chasing probably place differential probably too much, because I'm probably doing 5 guys based on place differential. And I'm very curious. Let me look at Sonoma real quick, because I want to see, does Kyle Larson pits and the team absolutely pisses away a good finish. But I want to see, because I had a ton of Kyle Larson at Sonoma. Where are you at? So Kyle Larson gets 5.4 fast laps, 6.5 laps led points, and ends up losing 14 place differential. An FPPK of 2.4, his total ends up being 25.9. I want to say if Larson stays out and wins Sonoma, you still have a situation where you probably swap Larson in for... Larson's at 10.6. Probably for Byron. You probably go from Byron to Larson being optimal, just due to the fact that Byron has the least amount of place differential that we see in the optimal line there, but we still see at least 3 place differential lines, and probably, I think Suarez probably still contends to be optimal. Maybe not if he doesn't lead, but we probably still see somebody else in the 6K range get there as well. Which would probably end up being possibly even Haley, with 38 points. Justin Haley might push out Suarez from the optimal. And the reason I'm thinking out loud on these situations is because I like trying to chase the lap leader. Okay, I have not done a good enough job myself of envisioning Chris Buescher, Daniel Suarez, these types of drivers leading these races, despite the fact they're starting top 10. And so the reason I'm saying this is when I'm building lines, I'm going to chase probably 3 place differential lines based on qualifying positions relative to what I think they can do, or relative to what I think those guys, where they can finish. After that, I want to make sure that I'm chasing at least 3 guys that are going to contend for the win or start it inside the top 10, just due to the fact that I don't think we're going to see a lot of passing at Indy. Just due to the fact that I think we're going to see guys get spread out pretty big, because that's what we've seen this whole year. Okay, outside of restarts, I understand Indy has. First off, you got to survive turn one, and that's what screwed over Briscoe last year. He got shoved through the grass. Um, you gotta survive the restarts, but after that, the field's gonna spread out, and I think based on what we've seen at Road America, at Sonoma, even at COTA, is that the good cars up front, as long as they don't pit before the end of the stage, let me change that. As long as they pit before the end of the stage, they're going to maintain the running position inside the top 10. The issue comes from people trying to chase playoff points and stuff, and I don't think that we need to really worry about that. I think that a lot of the NASCAR teams understand that. I'm hoping that they are. They still make really, really dumb decisions. However, let me bring this up here. When we look at the playoff grid, and the reason I'm saying this is people that I can envision chasing place differential points. Let's see. When we look at here, anyway. And the reason I'm looking this up and basing these guesses here, like we have lap by lap data. You guys can go into the folder and you guys can see exactly the drivers who stay out to get points in stages and stay out to win the stages and stuff. I'm not going in that direction because I normally do that in all the videos. I'm looking at this in a sense of I want to look at the playoff standings and see who doesn't have playoff or who doesn't have stage wins or enough stage wins to give them playoff points in the season that I could maybe envision a world where they stay out to win a stage. I don't see Chase Elliott doing that. I don't see Chastain doing that. They're playing for the win. Logano, I could see possibly staying out. Hamlin, certainly Christopher Bell, and even Cindric. Those would be my main people that I would be concerned about staying out to get a stage win. You could argue the same for Alex Bowman, but I don't think he's going to be up there to have a chance to win that. Christopher Bell, due to the fact that he does not have any stage wins this year. Those are just kind of just ideas right off the top of my head. Past that, the people who normally stay out, I have to pause this. I don't remember the sentence I was using at the end, but like people who stay out, clearly like the back markers and stuff, like the people running 30th through 20th have nothing to gain by short pitting, so typically they move up. But in terms of, like I said, Larson stayed out for whatever dumb reason at Sonoma to get a playoff point. That's an idiotic move. But Logano, Cindric are people that I'm concerned about staying out. Let me go ahead and move to Road America because I looked over it for the Road America race. Where we at? So Road America, we'll look at specifically these stages here. So the people who stay out, yet again, this is off the top of my head. This isn't me looking up. Cindric stays out in stage one. Chase Briscoe stays out in stage one. Harrison Burton, Kurt Busch, Eric Jones, Logano, Bubba Wallace. So in my head, I keep seeing that Logano and Cindric are staying out to win these stages or to get stage points, and they keep doing it. So at least I'm paying attention to these races correctly. And some of these teams, like for example, Chase Briscoe alternates, which I don't. They need to. These teams need to understand if they're gonna go for if they're gonna go for stage points, go for it in both stages. Like we've seen it before at Sonoma, at COTA, and even at Road America. Some of these people stay out in stage one and pit before the end of stage two, which you're not really. You're just hurting yourself. You would be better off chasing place. You'd be better off chasing playoff points and stage points in both stages. So like Briscoe at Road America pits before the end of stage one, or stays out to win stage one, but he pits before the end of stage two. I don't know why they keep flip flopping. But after that, it's mainly the same guys who stayed out in stage number one. Like you have Logano staying out again, you have Jones staying out again, and so really stage one is more so trying to nail the people who are going to stay out, which I think it's going to be the Penske guys, or maybe it's Bowman because he doesn't have a stage win. We might have somebody. That's why I wanted to go in and look at the playoff standings and in terms of who has stage wins and who doesn't, because this is a race where I would start to see people who don't have a lot of stage wins try and stay out. Like I would not be shocked to see Kyle Busch stay out. I would not be shocked to see Bowman, Cindric, Logano stay out again, Hamlin stay out. I would not be shocked to see these guys because they need the points. The issue comes from the fact that they just bury themselves in the field. I know I'm like circling around. I need to get off this point. You get the point that I'm trying to make here. And then it's certainly the people who, if you're just running in the 20s, you gain nothing by pitting before the end of the stage because you're running far enough back to where you don't really gain anything. And then if you stay out, you're just buried in traffic again. So in terms of those plays, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, that's the point about stages, and that's my rant on stages and these stupid road courses of how to build, or how to not build, but I want to avoid anybody I'm concerned about pitting before the stages, because that's really who's burying. That's how you're losing these races. That's how your fantasy lines are killed. These idiots stay out for these points instead of going for the win. So let's go in the opposite way. Who is going to go for the win in this race? Elliott, Chastain, Byron, Larson. I think they learned. Okay. Joe Gibbs, I'm concerned. It really depends on what they bring in terms of setup. But Reddick is going to compete. Bubba Wallace and Ty Gibbs are going to compete. Suarez, I don't know about Briscoe. I don't know about Bowman. I don't know about Cindric. Harvick for sure. Almirola for sure. So we've named 10 drivers that I'm confident in they're going to race smartly. Eric Jones will come down to what he is in practice and where he qualifies and what they're choosing to do. Not sure about Dylan. I did say Bubba's going to run. And then Haley, Busher, Stenhouse are going to race. McDowell is going to race. I don't think, despite the fact that they were caught cheating at Pocono, look, I need to play more McDowell. That's just how it is. If we say McDowell have speed, we need to play more McDowell. Or I need to play more McDowell. I'm sure you guys are doing it. I'm just blinded to this guy for whatever reason. And really at that point, we're there because at this point, we're looking at like people like Ty Dillon, LaJoy, Cody Ware. Like these guys are not in play either. Okay, and so we have our, around entering this week, around 14 guys that we feel comfortable with that are going to race fully. We have about 8 drivers up in the air based on what they're going to do, based on how fast they are in practice and qualifying. So right now we have a pool of, I would argue, about half the field that's viable. Once we get practice, once we get qualifying, we can cut that 21 drivers down to around 16 to 14 drivers and build lines from there. That's how I'm going to approach it, and I think you should as well. If you like these videos, if you want to support me, support Pearce, you can join the Patreon on the first next month. And I will see you guys in live shows this weekend. So hopefully this video somewhat helps you out. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And I will see you guys then.